So just want to hear from you, Rob, as to regarding the shared accounts. That is one part of the story. The second one, I know there is not a real good timeline that you might have, or you might have, I don't know, with regard to moving from one password to Okta. This is kind of, I'm looking at a best case scenario here, where we have completely moved to Okta, and from there backtracking and just kind of tell us where we are now. How long will it get for us to kind of get into that best case scenario? And what are the steps you're planning to take on to achieve that goal?
Okay, so when you say we're moving from one password to Okta, what that really is talking about is migrating credential sets that are included in one password to Okta. So, individual credential sets, well, people might still be using those in one password. The goal is definitely for us to be getting all credential sets to be going through Okta as much as possible. You know, if there's probably going to be some edge cases that won't fit that model, but you know, somewhere between 80 and 90% of everything we've looked at, you know, can easily fit inside of Okta. With the shared accounts,
the reason I brought those two things together was, Rob, I'm sorry, was because how the compensating control for a shared accounts, we're looking at it to mitigate it by using Okta's advanced auditing capability. So that is the reason I was asking for the timeline of it moving to Okta. So we can kind of tell the auditors that, yes, it's not like a best case scenario where we don't use shared accounts. We can come to that kind of a scenario, but at least we have an advanced auditing capability via Okta. So that's where I'm getting it.
Yeah. So again, the preference isn't for us not to be using shared accounts, but you know, there are some applications where either because of the maturity of the application itself or because of the use case of it, we need to share an account rather than have multiple accounts created. Mm-hmm. Within Okta, we can put the credential pair inside of an application created by Okta so that users are not aware that they're using a shared credential, but you can still do the assignment and the use of that credential via Okta and have an audit trail of the use of that credential. So what that buys you from an auditing perspective is that even if a shared credential is being used, you still have an audit history that shows the use of that, which is assigned to an individual. And that individual, by logging into Okta, also is doing a multi-factor authentication.
That's true.
So, so with the assumption that the credential pair is only known by the administrator of that application, because the credential pair is not actually shown to the end user, you then end up getting that level of transparency about the application, so that, you know, a shared credential is being used, but it's not actually being shared. But you also get the individual accountability and the ability to run that sort of an audit over it without having to pull out the individual applications audit and be able to assign it to an actual user. So that's the process as far as using Okta is concerned. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I mean, Usha, we've talked about this before, so that was really more for the benefit of the recording for the next people that are will be viewing this.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm making you repeat it over and over again, but no more.
No.
Going forward, this recording will be given to the new person who joins the team.
Yeah. So within People Ops and within HR recruiting, we already have an issue going where they have identified all of the shared credentials that they're using. And
want to share your screen, Rob, to show us what that is?
If you give me 2 seconds, I'll find it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just, I just need to grab a folder here. Sorry, I'll bring it up and then I'll share my screen.
That's fine, Rob. I'm
there
sorry
we go.
for putting you on the spot on that.
No, that's fine. So let me share my screen. There we go. So this is an issue that already exists. where I worked with Brittany, and we got a list of people ops and recruiting shared credentials that already exist. So most of them would not be, well, some of these wouldn't necessarily be in scope for an audit, because some of them are just general use things, but some of them are things like talking about the Department of Labor type administrator login. That's the stuff they do for the I-9 stuff. That may be, I mean, there's a reason that that's a shared login, because we only get one login as a company for that. But at least we can track individual users using it. So we've worked through the issue. We've worked through a lot of these already. There's still some that need to be done. We need to essentially do the same process with other departments. So within security, we've already done an internal audit, and I think all of the shared credentials that we're using in security have been converted. There was a shared credential for Zendesk and a couple of others, I think, but that's already been done. But we basically have to go through at a team vault by team vault level and get someone who is an administrator of those team vaults to essentially run an audit of their own shared credentials that are being used, and then provide us with some details so that we can create an application for them, and then use that application to push those back down towards Okta.
Okay.
So that's essentially what the process is. I think I saw something recently in the last week or two where the sales ops administrators for Salesforce were saying that they were deprecating any shared Salesforce accounts.
Okay.
I am not aware of what happens with other financial applications. So that list of SOX in scope applications that we have, there may be other ones that are in that space that we need to probably dive a little bit deeper into. Right,
because now our main scope would be SOC 2, SOX, and PCI, Rob. So all the financial applications are the priority for us right now. So that would be our first goal, or if you're looking at prioritizing any applications, so this one will be the first ones.
Okay. Hold on again. I'm going to share my screen again then. Mm-hmm. So we have a proposal here, an issue here, issue 152, where we're talking about setting up SAML for SOX in spoke applications. If we set up SAML and single sign-on, then that automatically ties a user identity to an individual. So we have that capacity for any of those that we can turn on SAML for. So that of itself eliminates shared accounts, because you'd have to be using a unique login in Okta to be able to do the single sign-on. What it might be useful to do here, though, is if we do identify any additional shared accounts in things that we can't convert to SAML. If I scroll down a little bit, I think I've actually put a list in of the ones that, where is it? I did have a list somewhere. There we go. So, so the ones that are completed set up in Okta as an SWA app. Things like Tipalti or Tipalti. Tipalti does its own 2FA,
right?
But we don't necessarily have the control on the login process for that. Similarly with Carter, the admin portal is a standard username and password. Right. I don't know if that's a shared credential. So for those particular applications, you might need to go and follow up, particularly with the application owners, and find out if they have any shared accounts. And if they do, we can convert them to Okta. And it might be useful to use this
Carter would have a shared account, Rob, because that's your 401k, right? That's an individual's 401k.
Carter is share entitlements.
Yeah, so I don't think that would have any shared. But yeah, as you said, maybe we should just talk to the application.
On the user side, no. On the administrator side, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So I don't know if they have like a Tipalti admin type account, for example, or a Carter admin account.
Got it.
So that's the stuff you might need to check. But for Expensify, for Trip Actions, for Snowflake, we're already done. For Salesforce, we're already done. For those other ones that are still in progress, I think most of them are SAML apps. So if they were SWA, I would have just done them. Stripe might be the only other one that might have something interesting going on that I can think of out of that list.
Okay. What about Stitch? That was a new app that internal audit kind of brought in.
So we've been talking a little bit about Stitch, and I think the question was whether they actually have, well, it's a straight username password setup. I haven't figured out how we log into it, if we log into it directly or if it's something that the login is via Zuora or something like that. That's a sort of to be checked, but that will be an SWA app. So there's potential for shared accounts to be used there. We'd have to check with Justin, I guess, to find out the exact detail.
Okay.
All right. Does that provide you with the information that you need?
Yeah, I think this is something we were not aware of this issue, Rob. So this actually explains everything and the timelines and what is being done, what is in progress, and what is in for the next round or next phase 2 or something. This issue is really, really good. So me and Jennifer are going to make a note of this. We're going to dig deep in this and keep following what is going on with this.
I'm sending you a link so you've got that issue.
Sure, thank you.
So I just sent it to you, Usha. I can send it to you too as well, Jen, if you want.
Jen, okay. With shared accounts, Rob. The other one we had was a question from Jennifer on MFA. Jen?
Yeah,
yes.
And actually, I think I've gotten most of my answer from you, Rob. You responded to one of the inquiries I had on your Zero Trust project. Yep. So you're rolling out the ASA POC and starting off with staging. And so I hadn't seen the latest that you actually commented that you're looking to move over all of those connections through Okta, and that would force the SSH and the MFA, right?
Yep.
So the only thing I really need to know is just for documenting sake. Let me just double check, because I think this one is a SOX control. So if that's the case, we'd have to be ready to test. Let me just double check. And so that's the only thing that I need to work out with our team, is just how do we get through that if we're not ready for testing, but it is a SOX control.
Well, we're already doing key-based SSH everywhere. It's just that it's being managed through chef scripts. So it's not being managed through Okta at the moment using the tokenized system. Okay. So we should have something that would withstand a SOX audit at the moment. It's just that it would be more labor intensive to check at the moment. Once we have the ASA stuff in place, it becomes a lot easier from a verification standpoint, because it's a single place to generate all the logs from.
Got it. Okay, so from what I hear, at this point, we are ready to test. I mean, we are enforcing SSH, and then there's multi-factor authentication. If not on the GCP level, it's on ASA.
So we are, all the SSH connections use multi-factor already because they're key-based authentication.
Okay, so that I just needed that piece of clarification then, because what I was seeing was we were turning off the multi-factor in GCP, so I thought there was a lag time of not having that in place, but we already have to do that for SSH. Okay, great.
Correct. Yeah, I mean the bigger push for ASA is just it makes the administration of those accounts, particularly on ephemeral systems, much easier. Because they just register and off they go and things just happen. It's really simple.
Great. Well, then I am good on that front.
Rob, this is for Luca, I guess.
Yep, the password strength stuff. That's just me having to do a test, and I keep on saying I'm going to do the test, and then I keep on getting distracted. Let me see if I can knock that off today, because I know that one's been hanging around for ages, and I know it needs to get done.
Okay, so you would probably reply back to him, right, Rob? In this,
I'll get back to him today on that one.
Okay. I think pretty much that's what we had, Rob. Yeah, before I forget, Rob. You remember Mel had a requirement where she wanted it to be 6 attempts, login attempts, and then it fails over, something like that in the Okta perspective, in the
Yep,
configuration. And
we
you
did that.
changed it right in front of our eyes, right? So it's done.
Yes,
So I can close the
yes,
issue then. Okay, got it. Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure from you, the horse's mouth. So I already told
Yep.
her, and we wanted to turn it into testing, but just checking, Rob. That's about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you want to type your password in the wrong way a few times just to verify, go ahead.
Oh, if you actually
We can real
see,
reset too.
no, not me though, but there's just today. It's funny you say that because just today another person did the same thing in Okta. I reset her password, and again I was like, how could somebody get it wrong 6 times? What's going on here? that is something like really unbelievable. So I had to go reset her password all over again. So that was crazy. So
This is why we have one password, so that you've got a password manager and you can just use that.
yeah, she already
What's
mentioned
going wrong
that.
here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even before I could say that, she already mentioned that she's sick and tired of finding the code and then putting it in. So if somebody could help. So I was like, okay, maybe one last time.
Tell her to get a YubiKey. I mean, it's simple. I
Yeah.
mean, get a YubiKey and then you just press a button.
I agree.
Anyway,